What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. The review scores went live today, a week before the game releasing. Honestly, that should have been a good sign just off the jump because, as we've seen really over the last couple of years, whether it's to combat leaks or, whatever the case might be, review scores, even for good games, tend to come out like a day or two before the game comes out. I know that generally when you do something like that, you could say, well, is the company hiding review scores, right? Over the last little while, I think it's because of leaks, because pretty much every game does that. But this game, doesn't come out till next week. Review scores are out, and they're incredibly high. Honestly, overall, I think the sentiment about this game is it's surprisingly good, right? Shockingly good. Now, I'll be real. I actually kind of predicted this. I said to a few people yesterday. In fact, I got asked by, I think, two different people, what do I think the review scores are going to be? And I'm pretty sure, and maybe they can chime in, I'm pretty sure I said 85 to 87. And this is actually an 86. I know how these journalists think, guys. I'm telling you. And I've gotten this right several times on the channel when I predict what journalists are going to give. 86, that is pretty darn good. Now, my normal stuff that I say, do review scores matter? Well, they matter to some a little bit more than others. For me, I was going to get this game anyway, right? Made the video a little while ago why I'm getting Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I mean, if the game got like a 40 or a 50 on Metacritic, that might change my mind. But if this game got in the 70s, got in the 80s, got in the 90s, I was still getting it, regardless. But an 86 is absolutely a high score. It's a very high score even for like Ubisoft, right? This redemption arc, and I keep saying this too, is Ubisoft on a redemption arc? And I think they could be. They have a long way to go. They have to hit on these AC games. They have to bring Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. There's a few things. Splinter Cell. They're, I think, on the path, though, to be real. And just the love for this game, again, for me, is it all that surprising? Well, I actually thought it was going to get this score, so it's not too surprising for me, but people really like it. And when you go to the, the scores, there's actually perfect scores. There's 10 out of 10s. There's a lot of 9s or 90s and a lot of 95s or 9.5s. A lot. I mean, that's probably the most, actually. I mean, yes, there's a bunch in the 80s. I think the lowest is like a 60 or 65. And honestly, that one isn't even, that negative of a review. So pretty much overwhelmingly just a lot of either love or very much like, right? And then even like the worst of it is still, well, it can be good at times and it can be bad at times. But you're seeing, I mean, you can read the reviews obviously for yourself, but at least what I'm seeing is a lot of surprise, right? Where it's like, this is one of the best Metroidvania games that are out there. I will say that's probably shocking because it looked good. It definitely looked solid, and bringing a Prince of Persia theme, and we know they were going like heavier on cutscenes and bosses and dialogue and things like that, right? Like that was what they were pushing. That is what made, at least initially, that's what kind of made this stand out because, side scrolling and the idea of a Metroidvania game, you have to iterate a little bit. You have to do your own thing in order to stand out, right? And that seemed like what they were doing. Now, even over the last little while I think the spawn system or like the time system that they have in the game, people were quote tweeting it, retweeting it on Twitter to millions and millions of impressions. That seemed to be pretty original. They seemed to be doing something really special with that. And I guess it came through. I saw a lot of the more you play it, the better it is. It's a pretty meaty game, and the longer you go through it, once they continue to add. And that's another thing with these kind of games, right? Generally, when you're playing in the beginning, middle, and end are generally different because the enemy type, maybe even like the surroundings or the platforming that you're going to be doing, the equipment that you have to platform, the weapons, how you fight specifically, your abilities or skills, that changes, and that's constantly getting, altered as you go through any of these games, right? So that's a lot of what I saw, that the more you play it, even as you get, to the middle of the game, to the end of the game continues to get better and better and better. And again, even on like the weaker ones was talk about like the boss fights. There's actually some really good boss fights in this game. The weaker parts would maybe just be how you get there, like maybe some of the more platforming elements, but that was on the lower end. The higher end was kind of overwhelmingly positive. And again, a lot of this is one of the better kinds of games in this genre that you've ever played, which again, as I've said, that part is kind of surprising. I thought this would be a good game. I predicted, these mid-80s scores. I didn't think we'd be getting things like that, though. People saying, this is one of the better games of this genre. So I'm excited. I mean, it comes out another week. We still got some time to go that we have to just sit here and wait for it. But I'm into it. I understand There's basically what I've seen, just a line. There's people that didn't want this kind of Prince of Persia game, right? And I'm not saying like to get over it or not get over it, but I mean, there is like that distinguishing line, right? Where if you're in it for the sands of time, or if you were expecting this AAA, more like Ace, well, it was kind of the originator of Assassin's Creed in the first place, right? If you want that, this is obviously not it. And I mean, I understand that. I understand if that's not your thing. I think for what it is, it always looked cool. Now we're being told it's excellent. I think those that are going in for this game, like literally, to play the kind of game that this is, I feel like this is going to be a pretty good one. So I'm pumped. I'll be playing it. Once I, have my thoughts on it, I'll be making a review as well on the channel. So stay tuned here. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.